Everybody, welcome back. This is Wings of the Eagle, where we talk about stuff like Israel, eschatology, and the unseen realm. And sometimes those things bleed into each other, and that's why we do what we do. So if you support us and what Wings of the Eagle does, what this podcast does, please share this video. Number one, YouTube is the best forum for sure to support what we do. Share it on YouTube. And then give to the podcast at wingsoftheeagle.com/support unsealed. You can see that if you're watching the video live in the description. You can also see links for the books, the courses that we have on offer, and all that. So please help in some way. That would be great. Thanks. Okay, so it's been. By the way, say hello. Hello, Madam Rex. Yes, she did. You reposted that stream. Fantastic. That's not why we love you, but it's another reason. That's super awesome. Be like T-Rex right now. No matter where you're watching. But I do want to hear from you. It's this time of Q&A as well. After my little blurb about spheres here. Please do make yourself known. Who are you? Where you're from? And any question, comment, or concern, or whatever you might have about anything that's happening in the world or your world, or any question that you might have, or whatever about church that we do here, or the Bible, or current events, or anything on your mind. Like UFOs as well. Right. Speaking of which, so it's been a year. I just never even bothered to remember that it's been a year. In June, as a matter of fact, I'm going to get out my trusty notebook here and tell you exactly what I wrote on that day. Hey, Elijah. Wondered if End Time app had a platform change. No, not a platform change, but we do need to change up who has access to it and the support that's offered to raise money for it, because it's not cheap. So not a platform change at all. Nothing is technically changed. It's just what folks can see versus if they're a member or not. So it's $10 a month now. Sorry to say. But here's the so that's what's going on, Elijah. By the way, get the End Time app, please. That's an awesome way off the grid, off the social medias, to talk with your fellow Christians. Okay. Here it is. This was June the 15th, 2024. This is, if by the way, I didn't link to this, but I did do a podcast right after this happened at the end of June last year as well. So you can go find that for the complete breakdown. But so this is what happened. New Jersey Turnpike, driving home from New York State, coming south, mile marker 44 at 10:44 a.m. It's near exit 5. It wasn't at exit 5, but if you know this part of the country, you'll know that in New Jersey, especially, you know where you are based on the exits. Because there's a lot of highways and a lot of exit numbers. So Burlington, Mount Holly-ish area. Clear sky. Driving on. It was a beautiful morning. Not congested. No traffic. It was a Saturday. And again, clear blue. Barely even a cloud. I saw, as I often do, I noticed birds when they are flying around. I love birds. And it's a typical, I'm not sure what species of the bird, it's, your larger black birds. They hang around basically over the highways in the tall trees, and they just kind of glide along on the nice day. You know them. I saw one of them. It was right in front of the driver. I'm alone in my car. So the driver's side, slightly to the left, see the bird. And then next to it, or behind it, or near it, there's a sphere, a silver, chrome-colored, it looks metal, sphere. sitting there, didn't move, didn't arrive there, it didn't go anywhere that I could see. It just sat there. As far as it could have been looking at me, I don't know, or something else, but it was just hanging out. Completely, like I say, completely stationary. I'm not sure how far away it was, like, distance from me with a car. I figured it had to be pretty high because it wasn't really moving with the, like I didn't go past it. So if it was lower, you come up to it and then you pass it. But I saw it for a good, 30 seconds and it just wasn't moving. So I figured it was pretty far off. No movement, no contrail, no light reflecting the sunlight, I'm guessing. And again, within about 30 seconds or so, it's a guesstimate, it just disappeared. It just wasn't there anymore. I didn't see it fly away. I didn't see any of that. It just wasn't there. It just was, all of a sudden it was there and then it wasn't. That's what happened. I was very confident that it was what many people have seen now throughout the world, which is the same darn things. I mean, there's tons and tons of videos, photos, and testimonies from people. A lot of times they move. Heck, they've even been on like Skinwalker Ranch, if you've seen that TV show. So a lot of times they're moving. A lot of times they're in formation. And there's a ton of footage of a triangular shape, like 3 of them. They'll move into like a triangle and like zoom in on something. Anyways, I don't want to get into all that, but I started reading basically the only book on the subject, called The Sphere Network, by Patrick Jackson. And we may have, depending on how that book goes, and it's starting off pretty good, we may have to host him for a conversation here soon. But I can tell you, I know a lot of folks say, well, it has to be some kind of, you don't know what you're talking about. You saw something. I mean, like you made it up. You see it was an illusion, or you're seeing things. No. It was an airplane. No. It was a balloon. Nope. And again, I feel confident that this was something anomalous or different because of the many other people who've seen the exact same things over the years. I am very, very confident it's not our military. I'm very confident because of back to the days of the Foo Fighters. The same exact things have been around. So I'm not saying I know what they are. I'm not saying I have explanations or I'm confident of all the details of it, but I can say that whatever these things are, I saw one of them last year. Now, my audience is a Christian audience, probably, most of you, if not all of you. That's great. And unfortunately, the reflexive reaction of somebody who sees something like this is, well, if you didn't make it up and you're, mentally stable. Yeah, I'm a pastor. I hope I'm mentally stable. It's either the government and you just don't know what you're seeing, or it's demons. And I can tell you, I didn't see a demon. I can tell you demons don't hang out in the sky. Are they playing basketball up there and the ball is visible, but they're not? I don't know how you get to that conclusion. That's part of the reason why I felt like we should do a full Bible study, which we did, and you have to pay for it. Yes, please go to wingsoftheeagle.com/courses. It's called Angels, Demons, and UFOs. just going through the scriptures about what it could possibly be using the Bible. So please support by doing that. If you really can't afford anything, but you really are interested in it, let me know. You can message me at Twitter or X right there at Manti4, MANTEI4, or Christopher at wingsoftheeagle.com. But I really would appreciate, because this is it. This is a one-man show here, and your support is invaluable to that. So yes, register for that, become a student of the class, interact. I should actually put up the one student who has gone through it down in Australia, and he was tickled, like he was amazing, and he wrote this awesome endorsement of it. So I'll be publishing that shortly. Anyway, just so you know, it's a serious effort to, because if it's demonic, if it's, fallen angels or something, of course I want to know that. My discernment, I think, is pretty good. If that stuff is around and there's engagement with some evil forces and evil beings, I would pick up on it. The Holy Spirit would talk to me about that. I'd rebuke it, whatever. I'd expose it, all that good stuff. But to me, it wasn't any of that. It was a machine. Or I don't know, if it's not a machine, if it was some kind of entity either inside it, or it itself, the sphere itself is a form of life. I don't know. I don't think so. But from where I was sitting, and a testimony of many, many, many people across the world, across the years, is they're I don't know if they're metal, but they look like metal. They're machines. There's some kind of technology that somebody uses, and that somebody has been using them for over 100 years. So it's not us, right? If you're talking about Foo Fighters and stuff like that, we're talking about the 1930s. 1930s, America didn't even have a submarine. We didn't have a jet engine, right? We're going around in propellers. That's the best tech we had. We didn't have we didn't know how to split the atom. We didn't know any of that stuff. Though we certainly didn't have silver spheres flying all over the place, harassing our planes, and all the forces in Europe basically saw them, different countries. So it wasn't the Nazis, and it wasn't America. So whatever it is, it's over 100 years old. So it's up to you. Now, yes, do we have a hypothesis about that? We do. Thanks to our Madam Rex here over the course of 2 years, we did come up with it's a novel hypothesis, and you can read about that. We've done full videos on it. That's completely free. You can get that on our YouTube channel and whatever. I wrote it up in a book form called The Hypothesis. Please check it out and let me know what you think. Okay? Not a balloon. It was definitely not a balloon. No. Nope. Stationary. Anyways, yeah, that was it. So it's been a year. I don't know what it means. So what do you guys think? I want to hear your thoughts and questions and comments, or about anything else. Now's the time, because it's a good time. Normally I try to go on Thursday, but that didn't work out yesterday, and figured the Q&A is appropriate. Let's see if, speaking of the End Time Church app, which we did earlier, somebody might have said something on there. They did, but not to this. Not for this. Okay. Okay, cool. We have a private messenger, by the way, in that app. And we talk about prayer requests and things that are happening, and encouragement for each other, events around the world, all that. It's worth it. It's worth it. Go get it. What does it mean? It is a tough question. I don't know what it means. there's impossible, like, things I'd love to know but are impossible to know. The only Did anyone else see it, basically? Does anyone else see it? I only know I filed a MUFON report. I filed a New Fork entry, which New Fork I like because you can actually, there's a map and it'll tell you dates, times, and what was seen and how many witnesses and all that stuff. And it's kept in a big, like a database, a map that you can zoom in and look at. And I have checked it and there was no other entry for that area that day. So I may have been the only one in the world or that area to see that at that time. What does that mean? Well, don't know. Was I meant to see it? Was it communicating with me somehow? I didn't sense any communication or anything. Was it spying on me? Maybe it didn't. Here's a fun thought. Maybe it didn't know that I saw it. maybe somehow, some way, whether it's the Lord or some other kind of way, it got revealed. Maybe it chose to do that. Maybe it didn't. I don't know. Elijah, how much do you think we know about all of God's creation? I'm reminded of things like the living creatures spoken about in the Bible. So you're talking about the Zoe or Zune in the New Testament, or even the seraph, cherub situation in Isaiah and Ezekiel, right? There's definitely stuff we don't know about like that. That's definitely a good example of creatures, entities, life forms, however you want to say it, things that God has created, that are intelligent, that are, I don't know about those four that you're talking about around the throne of God. I don't know if you could say they have free will, but they are sentient, like they have their own thoughts, and words. They speak, and they look a certain way. That's very odd, of course. There's definitely stuff that we aren't, necessarily privy to, for sure. That we know that there's an unseen world, that these things exist in a realm that we cannot see as human beings right now. There's some barrier or veil or something between where God is and where you are, where God's angels are, and where we can see, not where we are is a wrong way to say it, that we can see or we can perceive, or communicate with. That's separated. And that's kind of goes all the way back to Genesis 1. There was heavens and the earth, and then there was a separation between, blah, blah, blah. Generally, I think we're on a need to know basis. Like everything that's important, that we're going to need at some point, whether it's our personal life or the history of the church, the history of man. If there are important things that we should know, then God will tell us. But you could say, well, no, there's God's creation. Like, you don't have to go to that extreme either of what the heck are these four living creatures around the throne in Revelation, but just go back in time of the human race. Not back to Adam and Eve, even. I'm talking about 100 years ago, even. We're talking about the Foo Fighters, and we just got flight, basically manned flight, for a couple of decades, but before that we didn't know how to fly. right? So that was like the physics, like the forces of nature, like the moon, the stars, the sun, the planets on a big scale like that. We didn't know how that all worked in the past, but now we do, or we have much better understanding, and we physically have been to at least one of those places. We've sent machines that physically have been to other planets. Previously we didn't know we could do that, or we didn't know how, or we didn't know that other things like that existed. Macro, big, but also small microscopes, right? We didn't know that how we got sick. We didn't know that there was, microbes and bacteria and viruses and all that, and the cell and how it's made, and how that all works, DNA, right? Like in that small, super small quantum, world. Those are all God's creation, agreed. But we didn't know about that either. Doesn't mean God was hiding it. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, it's not like it was forbidden for us to know. It's just that we couldn't access it until we got smarter, or understood more, had better stuff, had better tools to, you would call that technology, to study or see or know those types of things. So 100 or 200 years ago, we had no, a couple hundred years ago, we had no conception of the microbiology, right? We had no conception of that. We had no conception of the bigger things. Like, we could see stars at night, and maybe Galileo, like there's sun, and there's things that aren't stars that we call planets or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So it's not like God, that was always part of God's creation, but it's certain things that we haven't figured out yet. Doesn't mean that they're inaccessible or that God's hiding it. What is the point of all that? The point is, depending on when you lived, there are certain things that you knew or don't know. What is is specifically what I saw? Do I think that is a living creature? Do I think that's a some kind of life form itself? I don't. I could be wrong. It didn't seem like it was alive. There was an intelligence behind, like, if you send a drone up in the air yourself, the drone isn't you, but you are controlling it. You are the intelligence behind it. So somebody made it, and God doesn't need it, right? You don't think God doesn't need metal spheres. So somebody else. Madam Rex says, would you tell us a bit about what the Sphere book says? I will tell you all that I've read, which is not a lot yet. I mean, I know the general conclusions because he has gone into different, like on X, he has an active account, and he'll put things from that he wrote in there, or that graphics, or demonstrations of the theory that he has about what they are and what their job is. And I think he does go in a little bit to who he thinks uses them, made them. I didn't get to all that yet, but so far it's been about just an introduction about who the author is and his several experiences as from a young child, like grade school through young adulthood, and the things that happen, which was a bunch. And then now he's tying in the paranormal, what we would call paranormal things, like poltergeists and hauntings, and tools that people use to hear, like voices, and the common assumptions about these are just dead people, or right, all that stuff. He's tying that all together. in the fact that there's definitely we're getting to learn a lot about how radiation or electromagnetism or um, waves and things can interact with our brains and our bodies, and that there's a that with our own every human has our own electrical system, basically, right? Your spine and your brain and stuff, it's all your nerves are all electric, all that those are intertwined. So that's about as far as I've gotten. Very interesting, though. Was that in response to me or Elijah's question? Elijah says, your thoughts about Bigfoot sightings. I've never, other people have who were here watching, but I'm not me. That's never been my thing. I've never seen that. I've never really been interested in it, honestly. I know many people are, and many have seen things or heard things in the woods and stuff over a long period of time, especially in America, where it's a lot of, even though you think it's all like full of, population exploding everywhere and nothing but cities in America. That's not true. Most of it is not habitable. Like there's a lot of wilderness type of areas in America and Canada, and so a lot of that type of thing is seen. I don't know what that is. Some say it's a cryptozoological situation. In other words, another species that is not human but is not unintelligent either, and they exist alongside us in the woods. That's one theory. Or there's something else. Anyways, I'm sorry, Madam Rex, were you talking to me or Elijah there? So the up to this point, it's the Sphere Network is a real phenomenon, and he calls it that for a reason. Because it's not just an errant individual flying ball that happens to be at certain locations. I do know of the general theory, which is that there are three types of spheres, and they're very technological. They're devices. They're objects that are created for a reason, and basically it's a defense mechanism. And there are three aspects to it, like a network. Like you're on Wi-Fi, you have the router, right, and you have the modem. Sometimes they're different machines, and then you have the signal that is received by your laptop or your phone, right? It's all part of a network. So he would say there are three different types of spheres. Type 1, 2, and 3. According to him, I think the type, what I saw, what he would call it, a class or a type 2 relay sphere, not ground level, but also not the super high ones. The super high ones are engaging a target. And those are the ones that you would see in a triangular, literally trying to triangulate the position of whatever the target is, whatever. And the type 2 would be off to like in between the high level, the target system, and the ground level. The ground level is kind of creepy because I didn't get to this part yet, but I've seen what he said about it. These are the things that are in your home, like that level. People who have experienced orbs or spheres like really close, and they're small, but those are real close encounter type of things. And yes, sometimes he'll demonstrate in the book, I think, that there are physical results when those little machines are nearby you. He's talking to me. Is different conclusions you mentioned on X. Oh, right. Yeah. Right. Sorry. Elijah Rock. Maybe entities crossing over to our dimension. The Bigfoot stuff. Maybe. And again, when we say dimension, that's kind of a very broad term, because it means so many different things to different people. The mathematician would view that term one way, a physicist would view it another way, a religious person like you probably would view it another way. And we have to understand that. And then even at that, okay, fine, we're talking about using a dimensional aspect that is always around, but we don't know how to manipulate these parts of our reality. But maybe somebody does. And what does that mean? Does that mean there are entities that use these other dimensions to do things? That's one thing. One side of it. Now, that's one thing. But if you claim, or we claim, that things live in another dimension and therefore they are interdimensional beings, that's saying something else. I'm probably not being clear at all. But it's a big distinction. Okay? And I know I'm teaching, myself as we go here in this. I used to say the same stuff all the time. With Hugh Ross and, the Christian physicist, and he would talk about this like string theory and the 10 dimensions of reality and whatever. Not saying that's right or wrong, but talking in that language doesn't really help, because we have to really be specific about what we're saying. If a Bigfoot or another creature, like, I don't know, a wolf on two legs, or some of this other crazy stuff that people see, even the so-called extraterrestrials, whatever, those guys, is it possible that they are being some kind of tool or technology is used to make them appear or come into our 3D, 4D world and then disappear out of it? Or are they just still here, but you just can't see them? Or do they live in this other place? Right? That's a whole bunch of discussions. It doesn't help whatsoever about what you said. So sorry about that. LOL. What's up, lol, on YouTube? I'm sorry, I don't know if you're male or female, so I don't know what to call you, but I think we are all on the same plane of existence. However, on different dimensions, some entities can see us, but we can't see them. So that's possible. That's more of the Flatland explanation, right? There's a famous work called Flatland. That's basically says that if you're a creature or an entity or something that exists in a one-dimensional space versus 2 or 3, if you had access to a higher dimension, you could appear a certain way, maybe not your true form, but if you poked into a lower dimensionality, that you would look different. Anyways, you don't believe me, go read the book. But it's very famous. So it could be that. It could be. I mean, that could be. That's a very yeah, Flatland. Yep. It's an older book now, but it's famously cited. Um, and that is a simplistic and maybe true. It's a simple explanation of how God and the angels, or even the devil and demons, exist all around us, but we can't see them. That is an explanation, or a way of understanding that is that they just exist in a higher, or you say higher dimension, but in reality, that theory, I believe, would say that the higher dimension you go is actually smaller and smaller spaces. Anyway, it's possible. Yep. So, like, I'm going back to the sphere. That I don't think it's an entity. I don't think it's a creature. So, if it's not, there's some kind of access to. It's not maybe as mystical sounding as other dimensions. Maybe it's just a way to bend light, and appear, to cloaking device, basically, right? To make yourself invisible by bending light, or even space and time. So that's less mystical and more science-y sounded, but they may be saying the same thing. Okay, good question or statement. Thank you, lol. Nothing is random, my friend. Right? God is he's real and he loves you. Jesus died for your sins. Follow him. That's the gospel, because he's coming back. Okay, anything else? I think it's Flatland. Yeah. Edwin Abbott, 1884. So that is the beginning of the thought process, of how that works. I think, was it Penrose? Anyways, physicists cite it all the time. Yeah, Flatland. Welcome. All right. Anything else, friends? If not, we'll call it a day. But just like people, randomly putting into YouTube streams, I don't believe what the sphere was random either. Looking for a book to read. Yeah, no problem. It's kind of an older one. Like I said, it's 1880s. So not exactly super modern English, but go for it. And by the way, there's on this topic, if you're interested, over the past, 2 years, between T-Rex and myself, we've read a whole bunch of stuff. There's a lot of good reading. In fact, in the hypothesis, how we got there, there's a whole bunch of. Let me see if I can link to that. There's a link to all the readings. Sorry, give me a second. By the way, if you go to the Wings of the Eagle website, there's an awesome search feature at the top. You can, and then you type in a term or word or whatever, and you can separate it by blog posts or products that address it. It's pretty awesome. Okay, it's at the bottom. I'm going to link to it here. There's your link in the live chat. If you go to the bottom of that, you'll see a whole bunch of things you can read. Okay? Right. Elijah says, some people seem to think that these images are being projected into the minds of people. Can you be more specific? Could you be more specific? I don't want to put words in your mouth. What images? Like UFOs? What period of time? How many people? Projected by whom? For what purpose? All that. Aliens, Bigfoot, etc. That's a big data set, man. Big data set. Again, if you read like Jacques Vallée, for example, he documents, and this, I guess, doesn't have to be related, but this type of thing, people seeing creatures and all that, go back hundreds of years at minimum. Hundreds of years. So if you're, doesn't mean they're extraterrestrial, doesn't mean they're, crypto, secret species or whatever, but, or maybe it does. But the fact that when you're talking about projecting thing, who's doing the projecting? And that's like a projector, like a device. Who's doing it and why? It's not, if it's hundreds of years old, it's not us. Not human governments. I mean, that we know of. I do recommend, Elijah, if you haven't read the hypothesis yet that we put out, and that link that I just put in there, in the description will tell you a short rundown of what the hypothesis says. And it does give, it's not a 100% comprehensive for every scenario, but it does cover a good amount of ground. It does cover a lot of aspects, all the big aspects of this question. Doesn't mean it's right, but it is a complete idea about explanations for all that. That is different maybe than what we've heard or what we've been taught, what we assume. So all I know is nobody projected an image of a sphere into my brain. It was there. I don't think so. Maybe somebody did. I don't know. And who? And for what purpose? And did they want me to crash my car? Because it was on the highway. So anyway, definitely check out the hypothesis, Elijah. All right, what else, guys? Anything else? If not, we'll wrap it up. 1 year since the sphere. So haven't seen anything since. I haven't seen any sphere since then. Nothing like that. I know there are people who say they can summon them or they can see them all the time. I don't know, but that's not me. So whatever it means, we'll just stick to it together. And this, by the way, This hasn't affected my Christianity in any way. In any way, not one bit. Doesn't change a thing. I know some people, I know because I've been told, some people are concerned, like what, like they don't see the connection. They don't see how you can be talking about UFOs that you've seen and be about the gospel, which is ridiculous. All right, there's no impact. Whether it's God, part of God's natural creation, or somebody else who made that thing, that has nothing to do with the gospel. I mean, it has no impact in my belief system, and it shouldn't have any on yours. I mean, like Mike Heiser, Dr. Heiser, obviously he's home with the Lord now, but he was a real big advocate of the weird, strange parts of the Bible and our world are part of the story, and we can't dismiss it. And frankly, as I think he would say something like, the weirder it is, the more important it is. Bond servant. Sorry. You just got in and we're just getting out. I've got to wrap it up. But we love you so much. Thank you all for participating. Please, like Madam Rex did at the beginning, share this on your feed. Very easy to do. Just make a little post or a little share. Get the YouTube out there, okay? That would be super, super helpful. And we want to keep talking about what's really happening. That's all we're doing. That's all this is. That's all this is. So maybe you have had something that you don't want to talk about, or you don't think you can talk about it, or you thought you were seeing things, or whatever. You think your church would react badly and your pastor would kick you out or something, which all that has happened, unfortunately. But I won't do that. So let me know. And until next time, this is Wings of the Eagle. Technically, this is an unsealed episode, but I would love to hear your thoughts. And obviously, if we see anything else, anything weird happens, you'll be the first to know. But we'll be back next time. Share, support. Love y'all. Thanks so much. And keep watching. This world is not boring, for sure. All right, till next time.